Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Love. I'll read the schedule for today. Let's see. Wow, that song knocked me over with love. Wow. We starting satsang with Shabd from Sumit, and it's gazing upon the blessed vision of your darshan. I live. My karma is perfect. Oh my God. Then there are few words by me. Then there is a talk and a reading by Dietrich, Dying While Living. And then uh, we will watch a video of our Holy Father, and then we will meditate together and melt in his love. Uh, so nice to see all these beautiful faces, my brothers and sisters. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Master. Okay, let's start with the Shabd.
Dear brothers and sisters, good morning, good evening, namaste. This Shabad is dedicated to my master Sant Singh Ji Maharaj. This Shabad is from Gurbani and this Shabad is written by Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. Guru ka darshan देख देख जीवा गुरु के चरण तोए तोए पीवा गुरु का दर्शन देख देख जीवा गुरु के चरण तोए तोए पीवा तिस गुरु को सिमरो सांस सांस गुरु मेरे प्राण सतगुरु मेरी रास गुरु की रैन नित भजन करो जन्म जन्म की हमें मैल हारो गुरु का दर्शन देख देख जीवा गुरु के चरण तोए तोए पीवा तिस गुरु को चलाओ पाखा महागन ते हाथ दे राखा तिस गुरु के ग्रह तो वो पानी जिस गुरु ते अकल गत जानी गुरु का दर्शन देख देख जीवा गुरु के चरण तोए तोए पीवा तिस गुरु के ग्रह पीस्यो नीत तिस प्रसाद वेरी सब मीत जिन गुरु मोका दीना जियो अपना दासरा आपे मुल लियो गुरु का दर्शन देख देख जीवा गुरु के चरण तोए तोए कल कलेस पे ब्रह्म दुख लाथा, कहो नानक मेरा गुरु समराथा, कहो नानक मेरा गुरु समराथा। गुरु का दर्शन देख देख जीवा, गुरु के चरण तोए तोए पीवा, तोए तोए पीवा, तोए तोए पीवा। थैंक यू।
Thank you, dear Sumit. That was wonderful. Sumit invited me to her house, but I couldn't go. She said there was a Gurumuk from Sant Kirpal. That is a very beautiful soul, and I didn't. It was the last moment. I didn't have a chance to go, but yes, thank you for your beautiful shabd, and welcome to Satsang, my dear beautiful family in God. The beginning shabd was so beautiful. It's all talking about the Gurumuk and how the Gurumuk has a tranquil heart and he remains steady, fast, even in ups and downs. Um, all this shabd was just portraying all the traits, the virtues, and the way the Gurumuk lives. And we fall in love with truth. We begin to cry for truth. And when we begin to cry for truth, those tears of crying, they make us into holy light, both inside and outside. We become holy light and we start singing the praises of the Lord. Day and night, we start to sing the praises of the Lord. So, in order for us to become Gurumuks, we first have to deeply, deeply, and deeply fall in love with truth. And that truth will transform us. The truth is the master. The truth is inside of us, and the truth is all that is important. The truth is why we have been sent here. So we have been sent here to become truth. When we become truth, we become holy light, the holy light of God, and that holy light is inside of us and outside. O lover of God, O true servant of the Lord, O Gurumuk, look into the mirror and see the holy light of God coming out of your eyes. That is what a Gurumuk comes. A Gurumuk comes to this world when the Lord sends him here, and he has a place. Only the Gurumuk is called in the court of the Lord. That Shabd was saying. Only the Gurumuk is called in the Shabd of the world, to the court of the world. And the Gurumuk abandons ego. The Gurumuk abandons ego and becomes the dust of the lovers, under the feet of the lovers of God. He abandons the ego. He slays the ego and becomes nothing. By becoming nothing, the Lord calls him to his court. By becoming nothing, the Lord makes him into the light of God, the holy light of God, as he becomes a torch inside out. Hidden suns and moons reside in the heart of the Gurumuk. Those hidden suns and the moons in the heart of the Gurumuk are more radiant. They say 12, 16 times or more and more as he goes deeper and deeper into love. And when the Gurumukh merges in the heart of Satpurush, he becomes unlimited suns and moons. But first, he becomes like the light of the 12 suns. Then he becomes like the light of the 16 suns. And then unlimited when Satpurush fully occupies his body or her body. This is the truth that the Gurumuk lives happily in this world. And the Gurumuk is the light of this world. So the purpose of satsang, the purpose of our holy gathering is so God can make us all into his Gurumuks, where we become his tongue, his eyes, his ears, and where he touches the world through our hands. We are in need of God as God is in need of us. He moves in this world through his gurumuks, through his lovers. Through his lovers, he looks at the world. Why? Because his lovers are molded in him. His lovers have melted in him. His lovers have become him. Me and my Father in the heavens are one. Be ye perfect as your Father who's in the heavens is perfect. The Gurumuks are always in love with their master. The Gurumuks never take any praise. They pass the praise to their master. If somebody ever praises a Gurumuk directly, he takes that praise and he gives it to his master. Why? Because his master is doing everything. He sees the truth, and the truth is that his master is doing, or her master is doing everything from A to Z. My master is the Alpha, my master is the Omega, and my master is in between. The master is all in all, and the Gurumuk becomes only a puppet in the hand of the Lord, where the Lord uses him as he wishes. The Gurumuk loves the will of God. Whatever the will of God, the Gurumuk accepts. The Gurumuk bows down to the will of God. Whatever the Lord sends his way, whether it's day or night, whether it's a stormy day or a cool day or a sunny day or a foggy day, whether it's pleasure or pain, the Gurumuk bows down to the will of God. The Gurumuk accepts everything that the Lord sends to him. Wow, there are endless and endless and endless qualities, virtues of the Gurumuk. As the Gurumuk is the like a distilled water, as he has become 100% pure. Pure at heart are the ones that shall see God. Pure at heart are the ones that merge with God, and pure at heart are the ones that become God. So purity on living, purity in living is the true distillation of the soul, is the true mining, is the true mining. As we all on the path of love, we dive deep into ourself that is surrounded by dirt and everything that is rubbish. We clear that out with the hand of the master. We clear that out with the grace of the master. And from this mining, that going diving deep inside ourselves, we find the pearl. We find the pearl of God. We find that divine jewel, and that divine jewel becomes us when all the rubbish is thrown away. It starts to shine, and we become the light of God from inside and from the outside. And the true Gurumuk, look into his eyes, and you will see God. Look into his eyes, and you will see the light of God, and you will see purity as eyes are the doorways. Eyes are the doorway to the soul. And the soul of the Gurumuk is imbued in the love. It's imbued in the wine and the nectar of the Lord, where that soul is always singing. That soul is always dancing in God. That soul is always happy, and its refuge is only the Lord. It lives in the Lord, and it finds no other place other than the Lord for its refuge. All other places are foreign. All other places are not acceptable and not allowed in the Gurumuk's life. Only the refuge at the feet of his master, only the refuge at the feet of God, only the refuge inside of him, he finds only or she finds only refuge in truth. And that truth becomes the life of the Gurumuk. What a beautiful shabd that reminds us what we shall become, and how ultimately God will use the knocking ball to knock whatever we are now and make us into ashes. And from the ashes, the phoenix rise. From the ashes, the phoenix rise. And that is really the marriage. The marriage, when the phoenix rises, the soul becomes a bride of the beloved Lord God. And once it gets forever marriage, that forever marriage then makes that child disciple into a true Gurumuk, into a true Gurumuk where he knows the truth, where he dives into the truth, where he swims into the truth. And then, whenever he swims into the truth, by going within himself, diving into the deepest, deepest, deepest depth of the truth, then he brings all the goodies of truth outside. All the goodies of the truth comes outside in the form of love. And love is the panacea to all ills. Love is the solution to all problems. And he who dives deep within him, who has cleared and removed the curtain, and who can fill his buckets with love up to the brim and bring that love outside, then satiate all the hungry world with that love. And that love cures all illnesses, that love solves all problems, and that love brings the happiness and it brings the deep and big smile to everyone's face. I wanted to read to you some poetry from a Gurumuk that Brother Jit sent to me. His name is Yunus, and he became one with the Lord. Like just all of us, we're going to become one with the Lord sooner or later. Sooner or later, the cry in our heart for the truth is going to make us into truth, and it's going to make us into the holy light of God, the holy light of God inside and outside. So I'm going to read some of his poetry to you. That poetry will ignite our holy fire. It will it will just make us want to become truth. It will encourage us on the path of love, as each word that comes out of a Gurumuk's mouth is a divine jewel coming from God and coming from the kingdom of God. So when we read this beautiful poetry of these divine souls, of these divine Gurumuks, of these souls who became one with God, one with their master, and who walked the, the surface of this earth as God men and God women. They only spilled love in this world. So let's read a little bit from that beautiful poetry and enjoy. Oh, maybe I should share it so you can see it. Oh, yes, okay. Love is my sect and religion. When my eyes saw the face of the friend, all sorrows became joys. Wow. When we just look at our beloved Master, our eyes will be filled with joy. All sorrow is forgotten. Here, my King, I give myself to you. From beginning to end, all my treasure and riches is you. The source of this mind and soul, the origin of space, are with you. You are the end and everything between. I can only go toward you. My way is from you to you. Wow. My way is from you to you. My tongue speaks of you within you, and yet my hand cannot touch you. This knowledge amazes me. I can no longer call myself I. I cannot call anybody you anymore. I can't say this is a servant and that one is a king. It doesn't make any sense. Since I found the love of the friend, this world and the next world are one. If you ask about the infinite beginning and the infinite end, they are my night and day. No longer do I mourn or cloud my heart, because truth's voice is heard, and I am at my own wedding. Let's see. Wow. Don't let me wander from your love. Don't let me leave your door. And if I lose myself, let me find myself with you. Wow. That is all of us, all of our prayer. That's the prayer of all the satsangis. Don't let me leave your door. Don't let me wander from your love. Let me find myself with you, my dear master. The friend sent me here. Go and see the world, he said. I have come and seen how beautifully it's arranged. But those who love you don't stay here. Those who love you don't stay here. We go home. We go home. He tells his servants, tomorrow I will give you paradise. That tomorrow is my today. His tomorrow is my today. That means he has access to that paradise within God and the kingdom of God. Who else knows the wisdom and this pain? And if it is ever known, it cannot be said, I turn my face to you. Nobody can describe the pain of separation. You are the soul and the universe, the secret treasure. All gain and loss is from you. My acts are no longer my own. All gain and loss is from you. It's all the will of God. Yunus turns his face to you, forgetting himself. He speaks word to you. It is you who makes him speak. Wow. Yunus turns his face to you, forgetting himself. When we look at the face of the Master, we forget who we are. We forget ourselves, we forget everything, and only one thing stays: love. Truth gave me a heart bewildered before a syllable is spoken. There comes a moment of happiness, then one of weeping. The next moment, like winter, long and dark. The next, like a birth. Flower gardens and fine vineyard appear. A moment comes when he can't speak. He can't explain a thing. In another moment, pearls fall from his tongue, remedies for those who suffer. In another moment, he rises to the heights. In the next, he's beneath the earth. In one moment, he's a drop. In another, he is boiled over into an ocean. Wow. This is the state of the Gurumuk he's talking about. How at some points, he's yearning for God, and then he merges into God. At some point, it's dark, and then it becomes light. Wow, wow, this poetry is so beautiful. Flower gardens and fine vineyards appear. A moment comes when he can't speak. He can't explain a thing. In another moment, pearls from his tongue, remedies for those who suffer. In another moment, he rises to the heights. In the next, he's beneath the earth. In one moment, he's a drop. In another, he boiled over into an ocean. Oneness with God. One moment, he remains in the dark. He cannot know anything. In the next, he dives into the sea of wisdom. He becomes a gallon. Those are wise men. Or one moment, he becomes a giant or sprite, living in some ruins. In the next, he's flying with Balkis. He's a sultan of men and genies. One moment he enters the mosque and he puts his face to the floor. The next, he's going to church, reading the gospel and becoming a monk. The monk, the mosque, the sheikh, they're all forms of God. A moment comes when like Jesus, he raises the dead. A moment comes when he enters the house of pride and becomes another Pharaoh of Hanuman. One moment he is Gabriel, bestowing abundantly to everything, to every gathering. Next moment he is lost, and poor Eunice stands astonished. Wow. Wow, I think he's just talking about how the Gurumuk, when he has pains of separation, and that pain of separation makes him into one with God. When he becomes one with God, then he becomes everything. He becomes the person who puts his head on the floor in worship of God in the Muslim mosque and then enters into the church and becomes a monk. Wow, that God is everything. And the Gurumuk is one with God. And since God is everything, then the Gurumuk also becomes everything. As whatever God has, the Gurumuk also have. God is so generous. He wants to give his whole self. So he melts us into his self and we become his self. I think that's good for today. We can continue on later. And thank you, Master, for the seva. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm looking forward for my dear brother Dietrich. He's gonna he I don't know if did he come yet. He said he's gonna be a little bit late, so he sent a recording. So I'll play the recording.
Hello, good morning and good evening, my friends and co-seekers on the spiritual path. The today's subject is dying while living. So, what is dying? What do we combine with the word dying? Dying means to lose one's life in the normal, common kind of word. But we are convinced that dying is no final process from the spiritual side of you. The body is dying, yes, but the soul is living on, dying while living. And what is living? Living means, from the spiritual side of you, living in any kind of body, in the physical, the astral, or the causal realms. For us, this is living. So that shows that dying as well as living are just a few time periods, short periods. For us, maybe long periods if we are young still. But in reality, if we look from the universe unto us, it is one point in the space and time. Then what means dying while living? It means to realize what comes after life, what comes after death, both. It means combining dying and living. The soul lives on. The coats it has put on, they may die, but the soul is living, and while living, it has the chance to meet somebody who has experienced the form of eternal life without body or free of any body, free to take on anybody it or he or she likes. This, let me call it super soul, comes onto this world in different forms. But it is the same power, the same soul, just with another coat on. We call them masters or saints or spiritual teachers of the highest order. So, I'm quoting and reading some parts of philosophy of the masters, this very, very grand book, which was published with the great Master Sawan Singh's blessing. So, it says here in the 4th chapter, death is real, but life in this world is unreal. And the Bible says, dust thou art, and to dust returns. So, what is death? Do we feel any pain at the time of death? In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a statement to the effect that the pain of death is so acute that it is equivalent to being stung simultaneously by 100,000 scorpions. The sting of one scorpion is already exceedingly painful. And also the Quran says, the pain of death may be likened to a thorny shrub passed into the body. In the Sikh scriptures also there are references to the pain of death. But, it continues, one of the benefits of the teachings of the saints is that a disciple crosses the gate of death in a state of happiness and thus conquers it. This is the experience of all disciples who have been blessed with the Master's grace. So, let us see. On the one side, it says it is a very painful process. On the other side, it is an experience of happiness, and we can conquer it. So, what is the explanation for this seemingly contradiction? I think only when we are not prepared to die while living, having the same experiences as at the time of death, in a portioned kind of way, in small steps, then in that case with the guidance of a spiritual master, we can get out of the body and therefore die without pain. Yet, to continue, for the journey after death, which hangs over our heads like the sword of Damocles, and which we all must undertake in due course, we normally care with very little. Have we arranged for food, which is Nam or Shat, for this journey? Have we decided upon a guide or a master, Guru, who has personal knowledge and experiences to accompany us? So here is this proverb of the sword of Damocles. So let me explain a little. It is an old Greek saga, and at that time there was a king on Sicily, and he ruled Sicily. It was a Greek king at that time, several hundred years before Christ. And Damocles was a minister of the king of Syracuse in Sicily. He was so in love with his king that he praised him all over, and seemed that he would be the most happy man of the world. The king, he was a little bit disturbed by that praising and thought, my God, how can I get him, this Damocles, to his senses? So he had an idea. He wanted to change the place with Damocles and get him on the throne. But before that, he attached a very heavy sword directly above the throne, and it was fixed only by a hair of a horse tail. One hair of a horse tail only. So, when Damocles sat on this throne, he realized every second this sword could fall onto him, and nobody could say when. Thus, the king of Syracuse could get sense into Damocles that especially as a king, danger is everywhere, and happiness will not take long to stay. Therefore, you are speaking about the sword of Damocles. And this hangs over our heads, giving us our death whenever it is destined for us. So, I want to recall and to tell you about of a happening of a dear friend of mine. When he was a child, he was operated on the tonsils, which were inflamed, and he got an anesthesia. And he told me, when I had this anesthesia, I suddenly realized I was above my body, and I could see what the doctor was doing with me. I saw that I was bleeding very heavily, But it was not a feeling of horror for me, he said, but a feeling of lightness, of light and lightness. Of course, he returned to his body after this experience, and he only did not tell it to his parents, but to me. So we will see later how this can be explained. He had no pain when he left the body, but he returned, of course. So let us see what the Greek philosopher Plutarch described, what the state is of of a man at this time of death, because he himself had to undergo death. At the moment of death, the soul experiences the same impressions and passes through the same processes as are experienced by those who are initiated into the great mysteries. Those who follow the instructions of a true master die daily while living. They go into the regions above and they come back into the same physical body at will. So in this first mentioned sentence of Plutarch, we can understand and realize he might have been a great master of his time in Greek. Then, when we refer to the Bible, the difference is only this, that his connection with the physical body is not completely broken. There is a silver cord referred to in the Bible in Ecclesiastes 12:6, by means of which one can leave the body and return to it at will, and be at all times connected with the body. In this manner, he gets an insight into death while living. He travels in the astral, the causal, and the higher regions, and becomes fully familiar with them. He is able to meet and talk with the inhabitants of these regions. Ecclesiastes, which was some sentence from the King Salomo, there you read it clearly. Now I quote, "Remember him before the silver cord is severed, and the golden bowl is broken, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, and the wheel broken at the well." This philosopher, maybe also Master Salomo, he knew about the silver cord, and he knew that one should learn about it before all wealth, the golden bowl, will be lost forever, and before the wheel is broken, his karmic load for this life has ended. Similarly, now I read again from Philosophy of the Masters, Gurumuk. Similarly, Maulana Rumi says, "It is not death that will take you, it is a tomb. Death is the change that will usher you into light from darkness and bestow eternal bliss upon you. You need have no fear of death, for apart from the physical body, you have other bodies. Therefore, do not be afraid to come out of this body." And Christ says, "Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." By Simran and Dhyan, the soul collects and enters the 10th gate. By listening to the Shabdun, it comes out, drawn upwards by the Shabd's magnetic force. With these practices, it is impossible to leave. Without these practices, it is impossible to leave this pot of clay. No other method exists. Guru Arjan says, dying while living can be accomplished only through Guru's Shabd. Guru's Shabd, the Shabdun. This is the one which let us die while living. No other way. Let us hear what our dear Ishwar Ji had talked about this subject. It is from some transcript of the collection in Ishwar News. So he says, we feel the body is ourself. This body will die one day. We are afraid of death, that we'll end then. What will happen to us? We have no realization at all. The body is a very temporary experience, and the body will die. It is only a short-term arrangement made by the consciousness itself. That is why when we use the sound for drawing ourselves, I have recommended to my friends, take it easy, go slow. Do not try to leap too fast. I remember my own dad, who was a disciple of great Master Sawan Singh, when he was very keen to find the truth inside, and when his attention was pulled by the sound, he felt he was dying and he had some fear. Actually, the awareness of the body comes up the same way, like when we die. When we die, we know that the arms and hands and arms and legs and feet, they die first. We become unaware of them first. Then the torso is unknown to us from the bottom to the top. When the attention is pulled by the sound, the same thing happens. Our attention is withdrawn from the body rapidly and we feel we are dying. So therefore, the fear of death is so strong in us because we think it's the end of our entire existence and of our entity, that we will no longer be there at all. And that is why the fear of death prevents us from going too fast towards our own self. My dad, when he got that experience, he was so frightened and he said, I'm not going to do any more meditation. This is like committing suicide. So we went back to the great master and said, Master, what kind of initiation have you given me? What kind of method have you taught me? It kills the person. I almost died. So great master said, Lekraj, shall I give you some statistics? People can die at any time. People die while they are reading a newspaper. People die while holding a cup in their hand before they can take a sip. People die in their sleep. People are dying in every state of being. Have you ever heard of a death taking place in meditation? Not a single case has been reported. Now understand that meditation prevents death from coming while you are meditating. It's a remarkable thing. So one does not die. The experience of death you had, that you are going to die, is a good experience. What does Guru Nanak say? What does Kabir say? What do all saints say? Die while living. They say the real spiritual path is to die while living. Experience what death would be like while you are still living. You will still live, but you will have the experience of what happens when you die. It is a very useful experience, because you will not be afraid of death after that. You will know what dying means. You will know you don't actually die. It's only the body that dies. The body you become unaware of. The body, you leave the body, but you are not dead. So therefore don't worry too much. My dad says, I understand statistics. I don't know if they will apply to me. I'm still afraid. Then Great Master replied, what will happen? Supposing you actually die, what do you expect? He said, I expect you to be there. He said, I will be there. Is that giving you some consolation? And he said, yes, that makes me feel a little better, that you will be there to take care of me. But he said, the Great Master said, still, I advise you, don't rush through. Do a little step at a time. Let your hand and feet die first, and you get up from meditation. Let your arms die, legs die, then you get up. Meditate in stages, so you get used to the withdrawal of attention from different parts of your body, and that will take away your fear also. The same thing I'm recommending to everybody now, because people have similar experiences like my dad had. So, friends and followers of the path, I thank you very much for your attention, and I thank you that if you will take something in from what the masters here, from the old and from Ishwar Ji had said, it will be good for you and for the others who come after you. I say goodbye to you now. Thank you for the seva, Master, that you gave to me. Bye-bye.
Called imagination. It's a very important faculty. But we waste that faculty also in imagining things outside. When we want to think of something, we also imagine things and we connect them. Our whole attention remains outside. Now, attention is a very important part of our process of thinking. When we think, we put attention on something. We can put attention on an idea, put attention on a subject matter that's outside. We don't put attention on the one who is putting the attention outside. We do not care to see that there is a self, our true self, not the body, a true self that exists inside us, which is operating and doing things like thinking, imagining, putting attention on things, focusing attention, concentrating attention. These are many useful things we do with human attention. But have we ever thought what would happen if instead of putting attention on these things outside, we put attention inside on our own self? It's very simple, but we don't do it. Simple thing is, if we put attention on our own self, we will discover so much more. And I have come to share with you what we can discover if you just put your attention inside yourself. We are used to using attention by focusing attention on things. Every time we focus attention on anything, our attention goes out. Even when we are told, why don't you put your attention on yourself, we try to focus attention on ourselves. Now you remember, when you focus attention, you are putting the object or the subject matter of attention away from yourself. You are the one putting attention, not the attention itself. Who are you? Where does it come from? When we attend to a book, read a book, and we are trying to understand what the book is, where are we understanding it from? Where is that self that can understand things, can think about things, can appreciate things? It is inside our head. Mostly we use our eyes to look out. Sometimes we have a feeling also that there is something outside. But most of the time, our awareness, our knowledge of this world and ourselves is based on looking out from the eyes. Can we look inside? That's a good question. Can we really look inside? These eyes are not designed to look inside. These eyeballs and the retina inside, the optic nerve that carries the message to the brain, all designed to look outside. Pictures from outside come and they create images on the retina, which is conveyed to the optic nerve. We say we can see. The whole pattern of the physical body is designed to look outside. Therefore, to use these eyes to look inside is impossible. They're not meant for that. But we can use eyes which are not these eyes to look inside. When we imagine things, which eyes are we using? We can right now close our eyes and say, I can imagine things. Where are you imagining from? Where are those eyes that can see things, actually see things in imagination? Things that don't even exist here. How can we imagine and see things? Are those eyes that are seeing? Is it your mind that is seeing? Where does it come from? Well, if we try to practice for a little while, sitting at the point from where we imagine things, which you notice will be behind these eyes, we can close our eyes, imagine better. If we close our eyes and imagine things inside, we will also know where we are imagining it from. You will notice that those eyes which imagine and see imaginary things lie inside. What else can we do? If we can see with imaginary eyes inside, we can also feel a body inside. We can stand up with our eyes closed. Inside, in imagination, we can stand up. Where do we do it? Not with these legs, not on this floor, but on a floor we create by imagination behind our eyes. This is a very important point, that all that we are doing through imagination is happening in a very small area behind the eyes. People sometimes refer to that area as a third eye center. Why do they call it third eye center? Why not call them inner eyes? There's a good reason for that. The reason is that these two eyes, physical eyes, do not see the same thing outside. They see two different pictures. You might have noticed that sometimes we go to a 3D movie, three-dimensional movie, and they give us special glasses to wear. There are two pictures on the screen, and with those glasses we combine them and they look like there's a depth and things become near and far. These two eyes are doing exactly the same thing. They see two pictures all the time. You can test it very easily. Just putting a finger in front of you and looking at a distance, you'll see two fingers. One looks stronger, one looks weak. If you look at the finger, it becomes one. You concentrate your attention on the finger, it becomes one. rest of the things become two. There is a combination of the two pictures, these I see, then can you imagine where do we combine? When we look at one image, where are we combining the two images? We are combining exactly behind the eyes, in the center, at the very place we call the third eye center. We are always operating from there. Every time we are awake and looking outside, we are operating from the center of our head. Some people want to be more specific. Where is that area actually? Physiologically, biologically, where are we actually operating from? If you watch very carefully, when you close eyes and feel where am I operating from as a living conscious being, it is very close to what we call the pineal gland or a pituitary body, just on top of the medulla oblongata. It's exactly the center. In layman's language, you could say that we are constantly seeing, imagining, and thinking things from a third eye center, which is exactly behind these eyes, between the ears, in the center of the head. If we understand that is where we operate from in our wakeful state, what would happen if we put attention on ourselves at that point? People have done it. We call it meditation. Why do we call it meditation? Because to meditate means to think about something. We are all meditating all the time. We meditate upon our affairs, our relationships, our studies. We meditate upon what we are going to do next. We are thinking about things all the time, and we are meditating on things outside. Now, if we start thinking about where are we, who are we, what's happening, are we really there, and try to check it out, then we are meditating on the self. When we meditate on the self, it becomes a spiritual exercise, an exercise to know your own self, to know your real conscious self. Not merely the body, which is a covering upon it, not even the sense perceptions of the body, which are also to be used for outside, but your true self that is operating inside the body. Now, I am going to share with you that if you are able to sustain your attention at the third eye center by doing nothing else but imagining you are there and seeing things around you right there, imagining things around you there, imagining you can stand and dance and sing over there. If you can perform all the activities we are performing with the body outside, but you perform them inside your head, behind the eyes, you will notice you have a remarkable body inside, which has all the sense perceptions that this body, physical body, has. In fact, much sharper sense perceptions that this physical body has. If you have difficulty in reading, your eyes are not very sharp, you're using glasses or something, inside the vision is better than 20/20, because the sense perception of seeing through your imagination inside is much sharper. The sense of smell is much sharper. The sense of touch is much sharper. All sense perceptions are much sharper. It's amazing we do not know that the sense perceptions which we are using to look at the world are so much sharper if you were to concentrate your attention on the inner sensory system that operates as a body inside you. Looks like imagination, but that's merely a way to discover what else is inside. Once you discover that, you will say, what is the difference between this physical body and the body you discover which imagines, which thinks, which functions independently? The difference is only one. This body has matter, physical matter, atoms and molecules. That body does not have that. The rest is identical. It has the same sense perception, the same power of thinking, the same power of loving, the same power of attaching, same power of doing everything except it does not have matter. And because it does not have physical matter, it has certain advantages. The biggest advantage is it is not affected by gravity. Therefore, you can fly. Can you fly in that body outside of yourself? Or is it only that you can fly in your imagination? If you can sustain an experience separate from this body, that means you are only experiencing the inner body, you can fly anywhere you like, even in this physical universe or any other universe. That's an amazing possibility. We don't try it. Nobody teaches us this. But actually it's a very simple exercise. A simple exercise to put your attention inside exactly where we are operating from in the wakeful state and then see what all we can do. But in order to be independent from this body, at least in awareness, we have to find a way by which we can become unaware of this body and retain the awareness of the inner body. That is actually a technical point. How do we achieve inner awareness and lose outer awareness at the same time? This process of meditation requires only two things: your attention and the power to concentrate it. And both are gifts given to us. All of us have it. How do we use it? We put attention on ourselves. That means imagine of nothing else but what is happening inside. Close our eyes, it's easier. Sit in a place where there's less distraction, easier. All these great meditators try to choose a nice place to sit, quiet from, make it very quiet. Dark if possible, so no light is affecting you. You can close your ears and eyes if you like, just to make it easy to think of nothing outside but inside. What happens? The concentration of attention is a very beautiful thing. When it concentrates your attention on something and creates more awareness of that, simultaneously it makes you less aware of what is outside of it. If you go to an orchestra, all the musical instruments are playing, but you like the drums better. Put your attention on the drums. Carefully listen to the drums. You'll find drums will become louder, other instruments will become weaker. There has been no change there. Only your attention is picking up something more by concentrating itself on drums. Others are weak. This is a great process. This process of concentrating attention on one thing and becoming unaware of others. Supposing here's some beautiful flowers next to me. I want to look at the flowers and appreciate them and put all my attention on the flowers. I'll become less aware of who else is here. If all my attention goes on flowers, I won't even know you are here. This is the very nature of the power of concentrating attention. When we concentrate our attention upon our inner self behind the eyes, at the third eye center, we gradually lose the awareness of our body. This process has sometimes been called dying while living. It's interesting to call it that way, because when people die, physical death, when they leave this body, or the life ends on this body, it does not end all of a sudden, all over the body. Sometimes it will go very quickly, sometimes it is slow. I have seen several people dying. Many of my friends have died, and some in terminal illnesses, where you could see that death was creeping upon them. What happens? When you are dying, you don't die all at once. You first die in your feet and hands. A person dying says, place my feet there. The feet are already there. The awareness of the feet disappears. Awareness of the hand disappears. Extremities die first. Then the legs and arms are not known. When the bottom of the torso is not known, awareness is pulling out, a person feels, well, I'm floating in the air. The body is still there. The awareness is going away. As it happens, the torso moves from bottom to the top. The person is still talking to us and feeling he or she is floating away in the air. And as it goes up, the person cannot speak, tries to speak, cannot speak. We can see the eyes moving, trying to say something, but cannot speak. It goes higher. The eyes become still. The brain is dead, person is gone. The process of physical death is exactly like that. Now, when you concentrate your attention behind the eyes, what happens? You, after some time, do not know where your hands and feet are. If you stay longer in concentration, you won't know where the legs and arms have gone. If you stay longer, you won't know where the bottom of the torso has gone. Exactly the same procedure. What happens in physical death happens when you process your attention by concentrating behind the eyes. It's remarkable that in this process, the heart is beating normally, breathing is going on normally, the vital signs are all okay, and yet you are experiencing the same withdrawal of attention, withdrawal of awareness from your body, all towards the head where you are occupying your attention and concentrating it. By doing that, you are able to achieve a state where your inner self becomes sharp and you are no longer aware of the outer body. That's the time when your inner self is discovered to be, in a way, not as imaginary as you thought, nor as temporary as you thought, because suddenly you find that the mind inside that inner self is functioning the same way as the mind functions in this, except its memory has been enlarged. Here we can't even remember things. I can't remember last week what breakfast I had. I can't remember who I met. Memory is so short here. And certainly we can't remember if we were ever alive in any form before we were born. We have no idea. We restrict our awareness to this physical life and can't even remember most of it. When we are in there, we remember not only things that happened earlier on this physical body, in this life, we remember things happened to us hundreds of years back. Where is that coming from? It's not somebody else telling us or saying you are going to past life regression or something. How are you remembering things? Because the mind in that body is functioning slightly differently. That is because the life of that inner body is longer than the life of the physical body. Big discovery. That's the biggest discovery you will find through this process of meditation, that the inner body, which you think is just imaginary, has actually been there and is part of your life force, which is making this physical body alive. That is more real. The sense perceptions have been placed into this body because of the inner body. The mind has been placed into this body because of the inner self. It can be verified. We don't need to study books to do that. You need to study yourself. It's a personal validation, not coming from anybody else's experience. And you should not go by anybody else's experience if you really want to study your own self. You must validate it with your own experience. And this is a wonderful way to discover that what we thought was our only body, our only life, is not the only life. This human life, this human body has been created only for a short period. And inside it lies something that's longer lasting. It's a personal discovery. Not only memories go back. You fly and there's a constant déjà vu that you have seen this thing before. You remember things you saw, never saw in this body, but you can recall them. Sometimes we do that even in physical body. We go to a place, I think I have been here before. We meet a person, I think I have known this person for a long time, even longer than I can remember. Where do those feelings come from? It does not mean they're just feelings. It actually means the memory is being triggered to remember something. But this physical body has been trained, the mind in the physical body has been trained. This is the only life, there is the only self, the body is yourself. The brain is functioning and creating all experiences. We are so much embedded with this brainwashing that we cannot think beyond it. But an experience is different. All brainwashing disappears when you have your own experience that there is something existing inside you that was living before you were born. And it was not somebody else, it was your own self. The same self which says, I am so and so, the same self is inside. It's very amazing. So doing this exercise is called true meditation on the self. That you can discover that the self was not merely the physical body. There is more to it. It can be discovered by a simple process. I call it simple because it is simple. I've just explained it's only putting attention on your own self inside. It's simple but difficult. Now why should it be difficult if it is simple? It is difficult because we have trained our mind to think always outside. When we try to concentrate our attention inside, the mind fights and runs outside. Why does it run outside? Only two reasons. Desires, which have been created by external temptations, external things, and attachments to those desires. We have lived a life of desires for outside things and are attached to them. And these attachments come up like thoughts, come up like distractions to our power to concentrate our attention inside. That is why it becomes difficult in the sense it takes much longer than would be if we didn't have these distractions of desires and attachments outside. But if you are able to control yourself, and for that we use many methods to control the mind going away, outside, we control it by many ways. The easiest way that people who have been using meditation have used is repetition of words, called mantra, called holy words, called special words. You can call them anything. Those words are inducted into our mind and we have to repeat them mentally so the mind cannot think of other things. It's a mechanical thing. We use outside words and make them very sacrosanct so that we get more attention to it. And we repeat those words with the mind so that we don't give place to the mind. It's like replacing the thoughts of the mind which are being pulled by our attachments and desires outside, to replace them with artificial words. And the more we practice them, the less we can think of outside. And one way of doing it. Another way, more subtle, and a very beautiful way. I like that much more than repetition of words. And that is when we are sitting in a very quiet place, absolutely quiet place that we can find, we can still hear some sounds. Some sounds seem to be coming from outside, some sounds coming to be ourselves. I met a Japanese meditator, and he had a meditation center in Japan, in Kyoto, and he said, I want to find a place of complete stillness where there is no sound. So he made a soundproof sort of a cave of glass, a glass small dome in which even the air that was pushed in for breathing was controlled to be silent. So there should be no noise. And he said, I want you to come and look at it and go in. I went there. When I went there, first of all, I've never been hearing the beating of my heart. I could hear very clearly. I could hear my breathing clearly. There's so many sounds, gurgling in the belly, I could easily see. Not only that, I could hear the blood vessels creating sounds. There's so many physical sounds. How can you escape them? But the best thing is that apart from these physical sounds, inside or outside, there is a sound, a very subtle sound, coming from the self itself. That's beautiful. If you are able to place your attention behind the eyes and stay there for a while, you will hear a sound that comes from within yourself, from the center, same place where you are behind the eyes, third eye center. Not from right or left side. Right and left side can be very biological sound, can be sound from different parts of the body. But when it comes from where you are, it's like a surround sound. Like you are actually radiating that sound outside. It takes a little practice. Because if you are totally starting in the beginning, your attention is all out. It takes time to gather attention enough to sit behind the eyes. But when you can sit there, you can start hearing the sound. It may look like a whistling sound. It may look like, in the beginning, like a thunder, like bird chirping, like small bells ringing. Some people confuse with tinnitus. Maybe you're having some problem in the ear. Those sounds that come, there are sounds which can be looking like very near and very far. The more you concentrate your attention on your own self, sounds that come from far off and very melodious sounds, great melody in them, come closer to you. All that is happening is you are getting close to your own self. And the sound that really pulls you, as if it is making you concentrate your attention off its own self, is a sound that resembles a big bell. No, no. Like a big bell sound with a long peal. And as you listen to that, the listening pulls your attention inside. Nothing greater than listening to yourself. Not your words, not thoughts, listening to the sound of yourself. That comes from the self. I have practiced many types of meditation in my life out of pure curiosity to see what else is possible. And out of all the methods of concentrating attention on the self, I found this to be the best. Put your attention on the sound of the self. Period. Works the best. Takes a time to get there. Sometimes I wonder if the bells in the belfries of our churches were placed for that reason, to remind us. Were these bells placed to remind us of the inner bell? Are so many temples using bells for that reason? Are we playing music, singing in choirs, singing in most places of worship? Is it because a reminder that the real music is coming from inside? It does occur to me, there's some relevance to that. Is it true that the old days we used to make domes and played bell sounds there? Just because the head is like a dome and the true bells are ringing inside? Is there some relationship? Well, these are just questions, more academic questions. But the real thing is that when you hear that sound, it pulls you to yourself and makes you unaware of the body, physical body, faster than any amount of repetition of words. That's why I prefer it. This is sometimes called the spiritual way of attainment by putting attention on the sound. In Indian language, we sometimes call it the Surt Shabd Yoga. Surt means attention, Shabd means sound, Yoga means union with your true self. And I like this yoga, the best. Out of all I have practiced. And I want to make it very clear and simple that there is no question of blind faith in anything, in any of these practices. In fact, I discourage any blind faith. It becomes difficult for me to discourage people from blind faith because they have been indoctrinated by their religions into accepting blind faith. So there's a resistance to saying don't have blind faith. Normally common sense would say it's a good thing not to have blind faith, have a living faith that you are experiencing. Only go by your experience. But we sometimes hold on to some principles called faith, some belief systems called faith, and it becomes blind faith. Somebody had an experience, said something about it, and we believe it. That's blind. If we have our own experience, and it grows, like all things that grow, it's a living experience. We must have a living experience, and that comes by personal practice. Personal practice of going within. If some people have left some guidance on their own experiences, useful for us. It gives us some guidance. But mere guidance is not enough. To act upon that guidance and experience the same thing ourselves is what creates living faith. So that is why I always suggest that we should go by living faith by our own experience. Now, I have given you a very small example of discovering our sensory systems inside. Sometimes we call that inner body astral body. Why do we call it astral body? Astral refers to the sky. The sky of the inner self is different. You might notice you can be in a completely dark room, no light, eyes closed, even covered with blinders. And you are imagining seeing a light, you can see it. You want to imagine colors, you can see them. You want to see forms and friends, you can see them. How do you see inside? Which light makes our imagination see things which we can't see outside at all? If this hall was dark, we wouldn't see anything. With eyes closed, we can see everything. Because the sky inside does not have the night and day like the sky here has. There is a twilight zone light. That means an evening light, dawn light, something like that, continuously there. Moreover, we see things because things themselves show up, even in darkness. Sometimes we say they are radiant figures inside. The nature of the sky is different from the sky here. That is why the inner self has been called the astral self, and the inner world that we experience, which has many parts, is called the astral world. Why many parts? There is a part of that inner experience which is connected with the physical. We imagine things inside physical. We imagine things inside which are not physical. So there's a division even of the astral state of being. Half of it is overlapping with the physical, and half of it is not. The one that does not overlap contains things like heavens and hells, which we have read about, seen, but never seen it personally. Inside you can experience personally. We have other experiences inside, apart from flying, because there is no matter in that body. We have an experience of communication that is different from the physical communication. To communicate with each other, we use language here. Language is merely putting into phonetic sounds something that you want to say, which is in your head. What you want to say is one thing. To put it into language is another thing. I asked right in the beginning if you know English. If I spoke in Lithuanian, you may not understand me. If I spoke another language, you may not understand me. Why? There's a big limitation, huge handicap. Sitting in the physical body, we understand through language, spoken, written language. Inside, we understand without language. We understand what is intended to be conveyed by language. something we call here telepathic communication. When some people say we can have telepathic communication, I know instantly they are using their astral self for that. Even here, not many people do it. Now, if you have telepathic communication and you think in Estonian, and I don't know Estonian language, I know English, I'll understand it in English. Not only inside, even here. You must have noticed that people who use telepathic communication here, they don't use language. They think in their head in language, they're trained to do that, and the other person gets the message that is being conveyed in the language the other person understands. There you don't even need to know the language. Communication is very different and very simple. Also, time is very different. Here time flows in a certain way. Events come on our time frame here. We feel time is flowing. Time doesn't flow. Time is stationary. We flow on it. Our attention flows on it. And that is why events come. All events are placed on the time frame and we go from event to event. We can't stop. Therefore we think time flows. With that body, time can stop. That means you can stop on time at any place. Big difference. Now these are such remarkable experiences that you compare what you can experience inside, and yet you are in the physical body. You are sitting here doing this. You haven't died to be disembodied to have that experience. You are having it right here, and you get back any time into physical body and relate to people what you've experienced. It's a remarkable ability we all have, without exception. Does not matter which country you come from, does not matter what culture you belong to, does not matter what religion you follow. It's open to everybody to discover who they are. But that is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning of the story. To reveal your full self, this is just a beginning. Discovering one body, another body is just a body, not yourself. What makes this body alive? What makes the inner body alive? That is the self. That's a question still remains. It can still be found out by meditating on the inner body. Identical way. Inner body has the same shape, same sense perceptions, same form as this one, and therefore we can meditate at the third eye center of the inner body. When you do that, what happens? Sense perception as we know it here is divided. Seeing is different from hearing. Of course, recently, the scientists have been able to store light as sound. And there are some cases, about 300 cases, where people can hear with the eyes and see with the ears. Few exceptional cases where there's wrong nerves being attached to the brain. But there, when you meditate and leave your even the sensory system behind, you open up another self where perception is direct and not spread out into different forms. Perception is by the mind. In fact, that body is called the mind. Sometimes we call it the causal body. It causes all experiences to happen. The thinking mind, which we think is just a brain functioning, through this process you can discover it's part of a covering upon ourselves, and we are using it to think. Thinking is just a machine operating in us. Just because you can think does not mean you are the thinker. You are using an apparatus installed in you, given to you, to use for thinking. The most remarkable thing about thinking is that thinking takes place only in time and space. And your life is not confined to time and space. We do things even now which defy time and space. For example, we get an intuitive feeling, a gut feeling, suddenly know something. We don't know from where. No thought. We know, I know it. How do you know it? I don't know how, but I know it. What does the mind say? Mind says, no, must be just a bad gut feeling or something. Here we are doing something right now which is beyond time and space. And that's not the only thing. There are other things we are doing which are not in time and space. The experience of falling in love, not in time and space. You don't think yourself into love. Mind cannot create love. Something else does. Now there is a self inside you which is even beyond the mind, where intuition is working, love is working, appreciation of beauty is working, and they come instantly in our life right here and also inside. Therefore, the mind which thinks is not ourself. It is just a device given to us, an organic device attached to our own self. That is why sometimes we have a different word for our own self. We don't say the mind is the self, we say our soul, our spirit. The mind functions as a covering upon the soul. Senses cover it again, physical body again. We have three coverings upon ourselves. And imagine that with the very simple practice of withdrawing attention to the self, we can be unaware of all the three coverings and become the soul and discover where consciousness per se is coming from, where life itself is coming from. It's a remarkable gift that we have been given, this possibility of having this experience. You discover so many things. You discover the nature of creation. You discover the nature of yourself. You discover why you are here. You understand the whole purpose. You discover at the mental level, at the causal level, how destinies are created, why we are born in a particular place, how events are created. Answers to all our questions are all inside us. We don't need to go anywhere outside to get answers to our deepest questions. What the purpose of life? What life is? What soul is? What immortality is? Immortality comes where there is no time. Soul subsists in no time and no space. Time and space are created by the mind. Above the causal level, where the soul exists, there is no time and space. So that is why it's immortality. It's a wonderful experience, cannot be fully described because all our descriptions are based upon thinking in space and time. That is why we can't describe, but you can experience it. An individual can experience. I am sharing these experiences with you, not ideas. We can have any idea we like, but experience is different from an idea. And these experiences are within our reach. If we are interested, some people come to me and say, I'm not interested in any of this stuff. I'm enjoying my life. I said, go ahead, enjoy. Who's stopping you? If you are feeling very happy in this life, go ahead. But after a week or so, he comes back to me. I am suffering so much. I am very unhappy. I said, last week you were happy. What happened now? He says, physically I was all right. I have a nice house, I've got money, I've got this thing. But emotionally I am destroyed. The person I loved just dumped me suddenly. How do you think I can be happy? Does my house give happiness? Does money give happiness? You're suffering so badly emotionally, you're so badly hurt. When I look at people around, I find nobody is really happy. There's some happiness and some unhappiness. Sometimes the unhappiness looks bigger than the happiness. Maybe they're equal. Let me imagine that our state of happiness and state of suffering are equal in life. It goes like a sine curve, sometimes happy, sometimes like this sine curve, up and down, up and down. How would we feel overall? We'll feel it's an unhappy life. There's a reason for that. When we are happy, time passes very quickly. When we are unhappy, it slows down. Oscar Wilde, that English author, has said, Let's try today meditation behind the eyes with love and devotion.